So, I mean, one of the things that I'm going to throw this back at you,
Okay,
is that when you have a digital plan, I mean, you've been in sales, and then you've also, you've been at the forefront of how technology intersects with business.
yeah.
What are you finding the differences between inbound and outbound? Because that's the question we get all the time.
Yeah, no, you're right.
What's better?
No, you're right. Well, I mean, I think that the difference between inbound and outbound, and really defining which one's better, is I don't really know that either one's better. They just kind of serve, two different roles. Like an inbound marketing strategy is really primarily for generating cold leads. And then what you do is you have the ability to warm them up through a nurturing process. And as you mentioned, through our unique process, that seems to be lacking for a lot of companies that we've seen. And then really the goal of the inbound marketing is really converting those leads into customers. And then eventually, they're such great customers of yours that they become brand ambassadors. Conversely, outbound, you're working with an existing list. So maybe these are prospects that you have before, maybe they're existing customers and you're looking to upsell them. And then what you're doing is you're crafting this specific message, based on a buyer persona. And then you'll set like a CPA, and then you'll manage the budget accordingly. The big thing for us is really just, taking advantage of that interruption marketing, and then really focus on awareness. And then, through the outbound process, you're reaching people who really don't know who you are yet. So inbound, they're kind of searching for you, and outbound, they don't really know you exist yet. So if you're a SaaS company and you're kind of new in the business, you might do a little more outbound if you're buying lists, or maybe you're working with a partner who has a list. But eventually, you're going to want to move into an inbound as well, because now you've got some brand awareness. Now you've got some case studies. Now you've got a process built. So really, the answer to that is really what we talk about is this hybrid approach, because it'll depend on where you are in your actual like sales cycle or life cycle of the company, and then figuring out which strategy is best at the right time. The gap assessment that you talked about really allows for this ability to customize this strategy that's right for your business, and then gives you a plan like we talked about from the beginning. You take those 2 months and you really map out like the thought leadership, the target marketing, the messaging, identifying the buyers. And really at the end of the day is you want to be able to tell a fantastic story. And then you take that story and you just marry it with like strategic campaigns. So from our perspective, to answer your question, I don't know if I did that or not, but the hybrid approach is probably the best, but it's also a function of, what you are or where you are on your sort of life cycle as a company. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, I think, so we have a client called LifeBrand, and LifeBrand, super, super, super cool technology. In this day and age where, you go and you put so much content into social media. I'm talking about as an individual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're texting it to, you're tweeting at 2 a.m, or you're doing whatever, that stuff can kind of haunt you. And so what happens here is LifeBrand came in and they said, hey, plug in all of your social media channels into our software, and we're going to use AI, and we're going to scrub through all of your social media.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, I know. And then it allows you from one click of a button,
right,
literally clean up your social media.
Yeah, that's kind of necessary.
Cool technology. Everybody that sees it says, hey, I want that.
Yeah.
The problem is that from a search perspective, nobody says, hey, today's the day I want to go find an AI software to clean up my social media.
Right. Yeah.
And so what happens is I can try to win in SEO because there are going to be certain people like that, but there's just going to be a lot of people. I got to interrupt their pattern. I got to, you know what I mean? Like there's,
you got to create awareness.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I mean, in the coronavirus, I think people were really pent up. They're at home and they're angry at anything.
Yeah.
And the things they're writing,
social media makes it easy.
I know, it's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I have friends, very logical and awesome friends that I'm like, whoa, dude, you really went there with that. Yeah. And what that's going to do is that, let's say I'm thinking that individual knows he went there. And then as he's on Facebook or he's on whatever it is, he's going to see an ad that interrupts his pattern that says, hey, you know what? before you apply to your next job,
Yeah,
clean up your profile.
definitely.
And then he's going to say, well, I didn't even know something like that existed.
Yep.
Now, he didn't go to Facebook to say, hey, what's an AI program that's going to do
Sure.
that? He had to interrupt that pattern, but that's not where it stops. So that was an outbound type thing,
Yep.
right? And then it has to connect to your inbound so you can drip market to them, so you can get that lead score and engage them and follow how far are they along in that journey, and is it working? Is it not? What do I need to tweak? Things like that.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.